Suga Sean came out and he said his fight with Pedro Munoz, beating Pedro, which I think he called him like undercard Pedro. He had some funny nickname for him, but he said is the next step in making himself bigger than Conor McGregor. Now, that has my interest. It has my interest only be like, if anybody else would have said it, I'm in one ear and out the next. But Sean always has a plan. So I will be very curious what that plan is. And not to mention, nothing happens in life, let alone within this industry, if you don't have a goal to do it in the first place. So Sean has, for the first time, kind of rolled out his goal. He's looking for stardom. Okay, most guys are looking for championship. I don't have a problem with this, so it's a little bit different. It really has my attention. How would you do it? And where my strength comes in, guys, is I see somebody else do it. I make those observations, and then I remember it. I remember it for years and years and years, and I come out and I pull an example and go, well, you know, this happened once before, and here's how he went about it. That's a tough and tall order. And if anybody could achieve it, it's the young guy with the beautiful record that everybody wants to see fight, right? I mean, it is Sean. But I'll be curious what that plan is. There's a lot that goes into Conor that is extremely hard to duplicate. I mean, by example, Conor's very first fight, nobody knew who he was. He didn't do anything leading into the fight. He had a very interesting style. It was a very pleasing match, but it was after the fight. He cut a promo calling for 50 G's, baby. This is on his first fight. His first fight. It's an undercard. Nobody knows who he is. I couldn't tell you his opponent to this day, and I watched the match. Not looking to be a jerk, just can't. He got $50,000 bonus. Conor's second fight was the main event. It was of an undercard, but it was the main event of that show. His second fight, which, by the way, was against Max Holloway. This is his second time up, and there was some kind of a marketing thing. I showed up to the press conference for that. I was on that card too, and the UFC was putting something together. The best dressed Conor McGregor impression. It was something like this. I didn't even know that this was going on, or this phenomenon of this kid from Ireland of Conor McGregor. I get to the press conference, there's this guy down there with the bow tie wearing sunglasses. There's all these people in the audience with a bow tie wearing sunglasses looking like, I mean, this isn't his second fight. He had his own market. It was the only marketing campaign done. There wasn't like 5 or 6 stunts. It wasn't like, let's do the Conor stunt, and then we'll bring out Chael stunt, and then we'll bring in Max's stunt, and we'll bring in Shogun stunt. We were all on the same card. I think Overeem and Travis Brown. It was a pretty impressive night. They chose one guy to do a thing with the fans for it. It was a guy that had only fought one time, and his name was Conor McGregor. I mean, there's just like a splash. That old expression, it's very hard, or even it's impossible to remake a first impression, but it's true. And some of those guys that come in so hard have that ripple effect. I just summed up Conor's first 2 fights for you. First fight ever, he gets the bonus. His second fight ever, he's the main event of an undercard, was his own marketing campaign. He has never not been a main event since in an absolutely sold-out arena. I mean, that is one hell of a way to start. Now, with that, there was some byproducts. It wasn't just the American fans that were selling Conor out. He had his own country that came with him. He was so over in the country of Ireland, they were boarding 747s and flying across the world and filling up arenas. The American fans that were on the bandwagon couldn't even get tickets if they didn't get them early because Ireland bought them all. You gotta be pretty damn famous. You gotta be pretty damn loved for any of that to happen. That would be very hard for me to give you an example of somebody else who was able to do that. So if you're chasing Conor, I'm all in. And I do know that if anybody could do it, boom, you found the guy. Not to mention, he's the first guy that set the goal to do it. Oh, and by the way, he's a guy that always has a plan and strategy. I'm wide open to the idea. Now, what does beating Pedro specifically do for Sean? Like, where do you go if you're Sean? He's in a unique spot, too. I just laid a very unique entrance in career of Conor McGregor. I just laid that out for you. But Sean's in a very unique spot, too. Like, Sean's opponent at this point in his career has not been important. It has not mattered who he faced. People came out to see him. He was a 135-pounder with absolutely no ranking who was guaranteed to be on the main card. He's still a 135-pounder who does now have a ranking, who might have the most beautiful record of anybody. It's the best record that I know of. What is it, 15-1 now? And if I'm wrong, he's 16-1, and that one was an interesting match. And I still don't know that his opponent matters. I just know that he's so good. He's got such a rank. He's got a beautiful placement on the card that you think that the top guys in the division would be calling him out, but they're not. They don't. And I think that's a compliment to Sean. You can attempt to dismiss a guy. I mean, we just played this game with Chimaev, guys. We just got done through this. Oh, hey, he's not ranked. But we all knew what the truth was. Everybody looks at him and goes, man, that's a goddamn tough guy. Let somebody else go deal with that. Let me get a little more footage. I'll try it another time. Is Sean to that Chimaev territory? I mean, there's a little bit of evidence. I just laid it out for you that perhaps within the 135-pound division, he sure seems to be the guy with the opportunity and the spotlight and the fan base that isn't getting called out. I got to go back to Dominick Cruz. I think Dominick Cruz is sought after. I think Dominick Cruz is in a beautiful position. I believe that Dominick Cruz could be inserted to a world title fight with Sterling right now. Absolutely, everybody be fine with it. Dominick Cruz, because of his experience and veteran status, could also go into a nostalgic type fight that would be absolutely clamored for against Jose Aldo, but Dominick isn't pushing for it. And I also, right, I'm giving you 3 different rungs. If you want to go to the different rung, I do think Dominick, with the experience and the resume versus the new kid on the block and the story and the tie-in to Arizona, like, I think it works. And historically in our sport, somebody would pursue that match. If Dominick get beat, boom. Big bounce for Sean. Sean gets beat, boom. Solidification for Dominick. Right? I mean, it's an old story, but we rinse and repeat. We do it almost every single Saturday with somebody, but Dominick isn't pursuing it. I would love to know what Dominick wants to do right now. I know he's still fighting. I know he still works his ass off. I know he's got a lot of people like me that still believe in him, but he's given us no direction. And if you go back to Sean, what is going to be next? He says that beating Pedro Munoz is going to be the next step in taking over the popularity status of Conor McGregor. I changed the quote a little bit. I had it a moment ago. But my point is this. Where does he go? And does he need a specific opponent? Does he need a specific opportunity to get closer to that? Does he have to have a world championship? Does he have to be in a main event right away? Because I will tell you, the crowd and the audience that has shown up for Sean in the arenas that I have been in where Sean has not been a main event, that crowd and audience is louder for Sean, and they don't give a goddamn that he isn't closing out the night. So those main events and those title opportunities, like, those are for sure, Nick, if Sean could do what he said he's going to do, and that starts with getting past Pedro. But at least we have the slightest bit of clarity of what Sean wants, of what makes him tick. It's interesting. I know that he's got a plan. I know he's got a strategy. I look forward to sitting back and seeing what that is.